right. Hi, everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation. Back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. We've got a great week rolling on. We started with Carl Prusser, film composer, worked on Die Hard 3. What else did he work on? Mr. Holland's Opus, a lot of other things. And yeah, that's Doug Hammer. And we also had Lena Soleil yesterday on violin. She was the principal violin two for Bozeman and is doing a lot of teaching. And today we're joined by composers Lisa Swerdlow and Doug Hammer. Lisa and Doug, how are you?
Excellent.
Great.
And Lisa, where are you?
I'm in a little town called Grass Valley in Northern California, in the Sierra foothills.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Well, it's beautiful up there, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful summer.
Yeah. Okay. And Doug, where are you?
I'm just north of Boston.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I know you went to Berkeley and you never left, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Love the area and decided to stay here. So
Yeah. Lisa has a new album, Book of Life, Concerto in 3 chapters, Possibilities, Disappointments, and Discoveries. And I note, in many of these things, we end up with a positive note at the end rather than a less than positive note at the end, which I feel is so very important about humanity. We have to finish on a positive. So let me start with Lisa and say, you guys work together. Lisa's the main composer on the album and Doug's the orchestrator. So Lisa, how did you get your ideas for the album? And then we can retrace a little bit about how you both got into music.
Well, it's hard for me to describe how I get an idea for an album because generally it's a little more organic than happening in the brain and then moving down into my fingers. But when I turned 70 1 year ago, almost exactly, I really started to notice how there are patterns in life that repeat, but they repeat at, say, a faster decibel than they started off. I see it as a spiral that goes upwards. So it's not a circle that you end up at the same place you started. You keep spiraling upwards, not to sound too new agey, but hopefully into greater evolution of your consciousness.
Okay.
And I saw that in 3 distinct ways. There's that part of us that is excited about all the possibilities that are presented to us or that we want to achieve, our dreams. And then there's the disappointments in life when certain dreams, expectations, desires were not fulfilled. We journey into like a really shadowy area when that happens. But out of that self-discovery and inner exploration, I think comes a whole new creative part of ourselves where we reimagine ourselves once again. And I've seen myself in my life go through this triad more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt inspired to try and express that as best I can through the one avenue that works for me, which is music.
Yeah. Yeah. And your music's beautiful, by the way. Of course, I have you on because I want to highly encourage everybody to listen to it. When you sit down to try to express possibilities or discoveries or disappointments, how do you start? Do you just start by like looking at the piano and saying, okay, let's see what happens? Or do you have something more calculated in mind? How does it work for you?
Usually what happens is I'm in a mood. Mm-hmm. And I'll sit down at the piano with, my little paper.
I have one of those notebooks too, for those who are watching at home. I have just to prove it to you, Lisa. Nobody can see this at home either, but there's mine that I was working on. Okay.
Wow.
Just
old school.
Telling the truth here. Okay.
Oh yeah, very old. I do everything by pencil.
Yeah, pen or pencil.
Then I transpose it into the computer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens. I'll sit down and I'll just be often just improvising, because improvising I find is a perfect tool to find out what wants to come out and what is the feeling that wants to come out.
Yeah.
And that's generally how I start. And I might just put down 2 measures and walk away. Mm. Or I might put down 4 measures. I never know. And it doesn't come to me all at once. And sometimes I have to put it aside for days, sometimes weeks, and then I build upon it. Since I've started working with Doug, which I believe, Doug, we've been working together about 5 years now. When I compose, I now hear Doug in my head in the background. And that's been a really new and different experience for me to hear orchestration when I'm composing.
That's awesome, because that's like in doubles tennis, when you know where your doubles partner is going to be without having to look or say anything, right? You've worked with them enough that you just know. And I guess a good question for Doug is, Doug, do you have that same feeling, like what Lisa's intending for you to orchestrate when you get the piano version or the piano sketch, whatever it might be that you get?
It's hard to say because I think it depends on the piece.
Mm-hmm.
But, the more I've worked with Lisa, obviously I know more kind of a general idea of what she wants
Mm-hmm.
and what her tastes are. So like I could think of some orchestration, but it isn't aligning with Lisa's vision of it. For example, for Lisa's work, it's very much, I don't like labels, but, more in a classical world rather than, let's say I orchestrate for a pianist who has their own compositions and it's more cinematic, or I could use synth pads and not,
Right.
real strings. And it's I don't want to use the word contemporary, but you know what I'm saying. I
do.
really
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
like all these words.
Yeah.
Lisa's music is her music. So, but I know, we need to use
And classical is
descriptive
a good
words.
description. It's
Yeah.
totally fine. Yeah.
And then also just the sonics, but I don't know if that answers your question.
It does a little bit. So I think, Lisa has in mind what she wants to hear, and she knows that you can do it. And you don't have quite as clear a vision as what Lisa has in mind for you to do. It takes a little bit more for you to get there, and that's okay. I mean, it is.
I have to disagree to some degree.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
Because there's times when Doug just my mind because he's so in sync with what I want. Like my first concerto, Coming to America, the first time, Doug, you and I talked about it, I said, I hear it very klezmer. And Doug had listened to it several times, made notes, and he had to read me his notes. And he said, very klezmer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have found actually when Doug and I talk, I'll give him my notes of what I hear at particular minute and second intervals and stuff.
Mhm.
And then he'll give me his notes, and they're usually not that far apart. I can only think of one or two occasions where I felt Doug was going in a different direction than I wanted, and I had to bring him back to what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But I love working with you, Doug, because I feel you do have a way of getting inside what I'm doing, and your orchestration reflects that.
Well, thanks, Lisa. You're the main course, and then I'm the side dishes and the garnish. And I've also used to do a lot of accompanying work for singers, and it's kind of a similar thing where I need to support and then get out of the way. And so whenever I'm orchestrating or accompanying or so forth, I'm always, I must ask myself internally this question a zillion times. Is this getting in the way? Because if anything, I'm more minimalist and people want more from me. I tend to work minimal, like let's start with a solo cello. Let's not go immediately to a whole cello section. Maybe just maybe just a string quartet's going to do fine in this first section, and we have some place to build. I can always add more later,
Yeah.
and so forth. But I don't get very cerebral about it. And Lisa's notes and my notes are really just kind of a beginning, because the way I tend to orchestrate is, as being a pianist and composer myself and a player, I'm more like a unconscious player perspective and trying ideas rather than going and writing the notes out or going to my notation program. I'm very much, let me play the track and then pull up a sound, and how does this feel? How does that feel?
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. Lisa, you mentioned that you guys met 5 years ago, which sounds like right in the middle of COVID to me. So was there
I think
something going on in there? Or?
it might have been just before COVID.
Okay.
Well, I had been working on a couple pieces with another orchestrator,
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in the recording studio, I record at Piano Haven in Sedona, Arizona. Joe Bongiorno is the engineer there. I had composed, I think it was Dawn Contemplation was perhaps the first piece that
Yeah.
Doug and I worked on. And Joe had heard the pieces that this other orchestrator and I had worked on. And he said, why don't you contact Doug Hammer? And I thought, yeah, because I wasn't completely satisfied with the experience was good, but I wasn't completely satisfied with the end product. And Joe always does a minimal mastering and then sends it on to Doug. And Doug came back with his first draft, and I was very impressed. And then we built on it from there. What Doug was saying is very true. When he sends me a first draft, it's usually rather sparse. And then I tell him what to add where I want to add it. And we work from there. Sometimes he'll add something that I hadn't thought of, and I go, "Oh my God, that's great!" And sometimes he'll add something, I go, "No, no, 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 that's not right."
That's okay.
And that's the beauty. I mean, I have orchestrated only 3 pieces of my own music in my life, and so I know how how challenging it is to do, and I'm so grateful that I have found Doug because I really feel simpatico that he understands the whole process, being that he's a composer as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa and Doug, where did you get your starts? Let's go with Doug first. Where did you get your start playing piano? I'm guessing you started and then deciding to go music as a profession.
Oh yeah, it goes way, way back.
Mm.
Yeah, I started piano lessons when I was 6. It started before that with my dad's record collection that had, big band and Broadway and classical and
Sounds like my dad.
classic country music. I
That
grew up
was
in
not my
the
dad,
Midwest.
but okay, there you go.
You know,
Yeah.
so it started with that. I mean, they saw how I reacted to music very early on, my parents. So I started lessons when I was 6, and it was in the beginning more contemporary. And then I did have some classical training, and I had a wonderful teacher who got rid of some bad habits and really helped me out. And then I reached a point after a few years where I was getting frustrated. And I was getting frustrated because I would do these classical piano competitions, and we're all playing the same piece, and I go in and I hear like other students, before me just nail them. I mean, articulation, everything, and comparing oneself and the other thing that I got frustrated with was just being confined to the notes on the page. Being a composer and arranger myself, I'm like, I want to write some notes
Yeah.
rather than not, I mean, obviously not to knock all of the classical works. I mean, because they're just amazing. But I wanted to go more in that direction. So, anyways, then I ended up going back to the same classical teacher in high school because it dawned on me this was a good thing. Let me go back to that.
Mhm.
But I was more bending towards pop and contemporary and wanting to do music production, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I knew in high school I wanted to really, do music full time. And so looked at various schools, and that's what brought me out from the Chicago area to Boston to Berklee College of
Yeah,
Music.
absolutely. Lisa, how about you? What's your story?
Well, not dissimilar. I started lessons at age 6. I grew up in a household where my father, he played mandolin and guitar and piano and accordion.
Hmm.
And every one of our relatives' house had a piano. And it was just sort of, I was drawn to it because I heard some of my cousins playing classical music and just said, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So they started me at age 6. And I was in Schoenberg Junior Orchestra. And grew up in LA and did a lot of recitals. And then when I was about 12 years of age, I was losing interest because that was the age of Jefferson Airplane and the
Mm.
Rolling Stones, and I wanted to play guitar. And I walked away from the piano for a few years, but then I got turned on to Laura Nyro and Carole King,
Mm.
and came back to the piano. And I always loved Burt Bacharach and Antonio Carlos Jobim. And my father always had Harry Belafonte, Henry Mancini, and he was very into French music and a lot of classical music. So I started making songs. Piano was just my background. Piano was just an accompaniment. Then I went to college and I did study piano there with a teacher that was at Humboldt State. And later on, after several years, I studied with Jerry Moore, who was an amazing teacher in theory, music theory.
Okay.
But then I had to earn a living. And so I went into, of all things, cabinet making, and then I became a general contractor.
Wow.
And I was in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and I had my own business for 20 years.
Good for you.
And I got so engrossed in the business, it grew pretty rapidly that I didn't have time to play piano for probably about 20 years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I ended up being diagnosed with cancer, and that brought me back to the piano. So I've been back to composing again after building my business. But I feel fortunate in that I know how difficult it is to try and make a living being a musician. And here I am at this stage of my life, and I don't feel the pressure of having to earn. I can just compose what I want and put it out there to the global planet, which is the beauty of music that doesn't have words. It can go globally because people can then hear what they need to hear in it without being told what they have to hear in it.
Yeah, it's just the joy of it, which is the mission of our foundation, spreading the joy of symphonic music to young audiences around the world. And young is usually younger than me. So Lisa, you don't qualify, but you already have the joy. So it's all good. And don't minimize the difficulty of making it as a contractor either. It's difficult as a musician, but I imagine you had your own challenges in that other business too.
It was a great business for 20 years, but a lot of stress. And I decided at some point it was more important to be a human being than a human doing.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, we're happy to have you back, and hope that you're staying around doing a lot more music. And what do you both have planned for the rest of this year in 2026?
Well, I took a break after Book of Life. That was a big I put out 2 albums this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big emotional task. And
Sure.
so I've taken a break. I have been composing again, but I really don't have any idea of what the future holds at this point. I generally don't,
Okay.
unless I have concerts on the schedule, and I decided about 2 years ago to take a break from performing and just focus on composing.
Okay. All right. Doug, what about you?
I'm always working on various, songs. In terms of my next album, it's hard to say. There's a couple in the hopper right now, so it's more, and they're different themes, different planets or different islands, and so I'm gonna, I tend not to work on a number of different projects at once. I tend to just hyper focus on one
Very good.
project
Yeah, I wish I could do that.
rather than, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have something next year that I'll be
So let me
really.
ask you one question about that in terms of workflow, because I'm sure when you're good, like Doug, you are, people will come to you like Lisa and other people and say, hey, I have this XYZ, and you're
Mhm.
busy doing the ABC thing. So if you're doing one thing at a time, do you really have to set them off and say, well, I'm going to be free, February 27th, and then I'm booked again? Or how does your workflow go?
I'm totally fine skipping between projects
Mhm.
when I'm working with different artists as well as, my own stuff. So it was really more in terms of I'm working on album A. I can't work on album A and B at the same time.
I got you.
Though now I'm going to go against what I just said because I'm going to be dabbling in maybe 3 different albums and I'm going to see what really grabs me right now. But I might kind of do what I don't do because I don't like to go in a rut. I always like to do something different. So I might pack away at least 2 albums at the same time now.
There you go.
We'll see.
Well,
What I have appreciated and what I have found with working with you, Doug, is that you'll tell me I can't start working on you until such and such time, But then once you do start, you are committed to that project until you see it through.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't like to leave people hanging.
Well, you've created something beautiful. It's wonderfully melodic and wonderfully emotionally evocative. I love it. Book of Life. And, as we go through possibilities, disappointments, discoveries lead to new possibilities. So we never know what the future is going to hold. And in that light, if people want to get in touch with you, Lisa, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can contact me through my website, which is lisaswerdlow.com. Very simple.
Okay.
And I will try and get back to you in a timely manner.
Sounds good. Doug, what about you?
Same thing. You can reach me through my website, doughammer.com, and I have a contact info page there, and that's the best way.
All right. We appreciate that. We're going to listen to some more of your music from the album on the way out here. And thank you so much for spending your time with me. And also, if there's anything we can do at the Symphonina Foundation to be of help, just let us know.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.